Coming into the game against Atlanta, the Knicks desperately needed to generate a win. They had just gotten embarrassed by the Suns at home, and they were about to face the same team that destroyed them in the first round. This win against the Hawks looked like the most impressive win of the season. There was a lot of positive takeaways from last night's inspiring win, but Alec Burks was the main reason the Knicks managed to beat the Hawks on the second night of a back-to-back. On the night, he completely stuffed the stat sheet, finishing with 23.6 boards, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Kemba Walker didn't play against the Hawks due to rest, but it looks like this was a blessing in disguise because the Knicks may have found a winning formula. Alec Burks got a lot of damage done with the 3-ball, whether it was off the catch or off the bounce. Coming into the game, he's been one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, shooting 44% from 3, which ranks 8th in the entire NBA in 3-point percentage. 15 of his 23 points came in the third quarter, which is where the Knicks built some serious separation and never looked back. Midway through the third quarter, Alec Burks and Julius Randle get into a pick and roll. Collins is way too low, and that's all the space that Burks needs to knock down the pull-up 3. Here, when the game was really close and the Knicks needed a bucket, Burks knocks down a tough 3-pointer right over Trae Young. Wow. After this smooth behind the back dribble, Collins is way too low, and Burks knocks down the pull-up 3. And finally, Julius Randle drives into the paint, draws multiple defenders, and makes the right decision to find Burks for the catch and shoot. This 3-pointer made it a 9-point game. Even though Kemba only sat out this game due to rest, Thibodeau will have a tough decision to make. He's not only going to have to strongly consider making Burks the permanent starter, but also he has to consider leaving Kemba on the bench. Burks is more versatile offensively, and more importantly, he's got more size and he's a much better defender. Kemba, on the other hand, has been inconsistent offensively, and he's a defensive liability. When his shot isn't falling, he's hurting the team. I said in a previous video that D Rose should start over Kemba, but after this game, it looks like Burks should be made the starter, and Kemba needs to stay on the bench. But while Burks was awesome, he wasn't the only impressive player. Obi looked amazing tonight. On the night, he had 13 points on 5 of 8 shooting. He was constantly running the floor and getting buckets in transition. On this alley-oop from Quentin Grimes, I wasn't sure if I was watching Obi Toppin or prime Blake Griffin. He could be a human highlight reel of his ability to rock the rim. Hopefully Tibbs gives Obi more minutes because he could be really impactful as a scoring threat off the bench. RJ Barrett was also good last night, finishing with 15 points and 7 boards on 54% shooting. RJ desperately needed to have a good game because he's been struggling mightily recently. Most of RJ's damage was done at the rim, where the same layups that had been missing all season were finally dropping. Last year, RJ started off the year in a bad slump before his shooting drastically improved, so hopefully this is where RJ finally turns it around. Evan Fournier also had a really good game, finishing with 20 points on 54% shooting. Fournier has been struggling with his outside shot all season, but this was the scoring outburst that the Knicks desperately needed. He was hitting his threes, he was driving to the rim, and he even looks competent on defense. This is the Fournier that the Knicks need every night. This is why they paid him $78 million over the offseason, and hopefully for him, this is the start of a nice turnaround. Immanuel Quickley was also a huge part of the win. He didn't shoot well, finishing with just 9 points on 4-12 shooting, but his facilitating was excellent, finishing with 7 assists. He's developing a really nice chemistry with Obi, where he knows how to find him for finishes at the rim. But he was also a huge factor on the defensive end, as he did a great job defending Trae Young and Lou Williams down the stretch of the game. But what was also extremely important was the immaculate defense. The Knicks held an Atlanta team that averages 111 points per game to just 90 points on 35% shooting on the night. The Knicks closed this game out not with incredible shot making, but with excellent defense. Let's look at the last 5 minutes of the game. The closing lineup for the Knicks was Immanuel Quickley, Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. Look at Immanuel Quickley's excellent on-ball defense against Trae Young. He forces Young to pick up his dribble, he gets it back, Then Trae Young drives, but IQ stays with him and forces the miss. Excellent defense. On the next defensive possession, this time we get good defense from Fournier. Fournier fights over the screen, gets a hand up on this Kevin Huerter 3, and the Knicks force another miss. The next play, the Knicks switch on this pick and roll and Randle ends up on Trae Young. But Randle contains the drive. Young tries to get it to Collins, but it's deflected and goes out of bounds. Knick ball. Here's more great defense by Quickly. He goes over the screen, stays with Trae Young, and forces him into another tough pull-up that misses. The closing minutes was truly a defensive masterclass from Quickly last night. Here he stays with Lou Will on the crossover, Williams pulls up and misses, and Randle secures the rebound. The very next defensive possession, Immanuel Quickley is right on Lou Will, making him extremely uncomfortable. Williams races, but the defensive pressure forces him to airball. The next defensive possession, Collins drives by Randle, but Mitch is right there and the Knicks get yet another stop. This fast break layup by Atlanta was their first field goal in the last 5 minutes, and by that time, it was a 9-point game with just 50 seconds left. The Knicks themselves only managed to score 4 points in the last 5 minutes of the game, but it was their tough defense that made it impossible for Atlanta to score and helped them to secure the win. So there you have it, Knicks fans. A really impressive win on the road against a good Atlanta team. The defense that the Knicks played was reminiscent of last year's squad that finished as a top 5 defensive team. If the Knicks can continue to play defense like that, I believe this is a team that could finally get back to winning consistently. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and have a great rest of your day.